Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about mindfulness and stress reduction, specifically five ways, practical ways that all of us, regardless if we're an entrepreneur, we're a professional, we're a manager, we're a parent, we're a young adult, 5 ways that all of us can really harness mindfulness to reduce our stress. Life is very difficult, it's very stressful. There's a lot of things that a lot of us are experiencing, whether it's professionally, in our career, with our business, with our family, with our friends, a lot of things that are very difficult. And so the question is, how do we manage this? How can we really manage and work on our mindfulness and our attitude, our cognition? How can we help ourselves to really take care and reduce our stress? So if we haven't met, my name is Dr. Karyn Gordon. I've been doing this for over 25 years. My doctorate's in marriage and family. The focus of our work today is in leadership development. We work with businesses and families around the world. And we really focus on teaching what's called leadership emotional intelligence to all ages, all from children to business owners, okay? And so that's what we do. That is our area of niche that we love to do, because we have learned, and science has continually taught us, that when we can really learn these skills, it helps us with our business and our relationships and in our well-being. And so everything we do in a company is focused on that. And so this video focuses specifically on more the mental health, the emotional well-being, emotional wellness category, that bucket. And so all of our videos, we try to focus on one of those 3 buckets. So this one is really focused on that wellness bucket. And so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notified when other videos actually come out. So 5 ways. And one of the things that if you have heard me speak before, I love to take science. But make it really practical so we know what we can do with it. So that can help us, right? We can help all of us. So, okay. So 5 practical ways, everyone. So the first kind of mindset or attitude that I want all of us to really think about is expect life to be difficult. Expect life to be stressful. This might seem like a really strange way to actually start. You might be like, Karyn, isn't that kind of like limiting belief? But let me just kind of explain it. Years ago, I remember reading a fabulous book. It's kind of a bit of a classic called A Road Less Traveled by Dr. Scott Peck. And many of you probably have read it or heard of it. And his whole thing, he's a psychiatrist, but he had a very huge part in terms of, he focused also on spirituality. So he had this really neat kind of background in terms of science and psychology, but also spirituality. And one of the things he talks about, and I remember reading it when I was in high school, I was pretty young. And his whole thing was that a lot of times in life, a lot of us, we kind of expect everything to go well. We expect everything to go well and everything kind of like falls into place. And then we're like really surprised when something kind of goes off. And he said, if you can kind of have that mindset that life is going to be difficult and life is going to be stressful, and if you can kind of almost expect it, what it does is it kind of manages expectations. So, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. And so, knowing that a very small percentage of businesses actually survive, and knowing that when you start a business, you're going to get a ton of rejection and a ton of failure and a ton of setbacks and a ton of things that are going to go wrong. If you kind of know that before you sign up for it, when you start getting bad feedback and setbacks and failure and it's almost a little bit easier to manage it, because you're managing your expectations. The expectations isn't going to be, oh, this is going to be really easy. It's like, oh, this is going to be really difficult, but I'm still signing up for it. And so it kind of goes back to with what Dr. Peck was talking about, which is kind of expect life to be difficult. Expect it. It doesn't mean that we have a limiting belief. It just means that we are really trying to manage our expectations. So, and then of course we're going to get our other tools that I'm going to get to in a second. We're going to get everything else kind of lined up, but it really does help us manage it more effectively. Okay, so that's number 1. It may seem like a strange one to start off with, everybody, but it is actually one of the first areas. And so, again, this is all part of that self-care. It's all part of mindset work. It's all part of what's called leadership EQ. So you definitely want to get your hands on, we've got a scorecard. It's free to measure your leadership EQ. And it actually, a lot of these 5 are kind of embedded into that scorecard. So just below, write EQ. EQ in the comments, and somebody from our team will send that out to you. And that's a great tool, a great scorecard to measure how you're doing with some of these skills. Okay, so the first one is to expect problems or expect stressors in our life. Number 2 is once we realize that we have stressors, so whether or not that's in business, that's in career, that's in our relationships, in our marriage, in our friendships, in our neighbors, and our in-laws, whatever that topic is, those are stressors. Okay, they're events that are really stressful. Okay, we all have them. Okay, so they're events, they're what we call stressors. Okay, they're stressors. They're external circumstances or situation or people that is actually causing us a lot of stress. So number 1 is realize, okay, there's gonna be a lot of parts of life that are gonna be difficult. Number 2 is when we have those stressors, whether it's people or events, we want to really focus on what we can control in the situation. Okay, so let's take COVID, for example. So it's very interesting working with a lot of different people around the world through COVID. And some people did it remarkably well in COVID, emotionally, okay? They did remarkably well. A lot of people fell apart, okay? And there's lots of variables around why that's the case. When I look at some of the people who did really well, emotionally I'm talking about, one of the things, the little secrets that I saw is that they focused on what they could control. So could not control COVID. COVID's external circumstance, the stressor. But when I look at the people that I think did emotionally well, they focused on what they could control in that difficult circumstance. So when I think about adults and young people, okay, this was across all ages that did really well, they focus on things that they could control. I saw clients, colleagues, learning a second language online, doing fitness and yoga programs in their house, learning cooking classes, learning dancing classes with their spouse, all things that they could do online in the safety of their house. I have clients that literally, they made a list of every single thing that they could control while being in lockdown, skills that they have always wanted to learn, but never seemed to really have the time for it. And in that time, all of a sudden, they were developing these beautiful skills and hobbies. And so although they found COVID obviously very stressful and isolating, they were able to really focus on things that they could control. And so as a result of it, they came out of COVID with a whole bunch of extra new hobbies and skills and emotional energy. And that was very powerful to watch that, okay? And I'm sure you can think of somebody, I can think of lots of people that kind of fell into that category where, yes, it's very difficult and financially for a lot of people, financially it was a massive hit and isolating and all that stuff. And there was also this group of people that actually really took off during COVID and emotionally developed. And so that was really exciting. So that's number 2, is that realizing that we cannot control stressors and external circumstances. We cannot control other people. We cannot control circumstances like COVID, the economy. There's lots and lots of things we cannot control. But focusing on what we can control and putting our energy and focus there, that is going to give us an enormous amount of peace and calm and reduce our stress. So that's number 2. Number 3, accept what you cannot control. So again, if I think about the COVID example, it's people that realize I cannot control it. I can't control it. And the more I focus on it, it's not going to do anything. The same thing goes with, you might have a partner, a spouse, children, friends, in-laws, job. There's lots of things that are stressful. The more you focus on the stressor, you just can't control it. People aren't going to change. A lot of circumstances are not going to change. However, we can change our response to it. And the more that we focus on that, accept that we can't control this, but focus on with what we can control, which is ourselves, that is a huge step. So that's number 3, everybody. Number 4 is grieve what you cannot control. So for example, let's say you have really difficult in-laws, okay? So really difficult in-laws, and that dynamic, that relationship is causing an enormous amount of stress. Cannot control other people. You can control yourself. So to accept that I cannot control this, I'm going to focus on what I can do, which is I can control myself and how I respond to that stressor or that dynamic. We sometimes, in that step 4, is we need to really sometimes grieve what we do not have. I see this a lot with if I'm working with a family, for example, and I see this with like family of origin work. You know, a lot of times maybe you don't have the father you wanted, or the mother you had dreamed of, or the in-laws, or something in that family dynamic. And so, yes, it's easy to say, yeah, just kind of focus on what you can control and accept what you can't. But there's a lot of emotion to that, right? A lot of times people feel really angry for their circumstance or sad. And it's really important. Number 4 is allow yourself to kind of go through the emotions and to grieve the different stages of coming to a place where you, it's almost like you have to grieve what you do not have in order to accept with what you do have. If you've seen my TED Talk, I talk about how I was diagnosed with a learning disability and told by educator that I'd be lucky to finish high school. And everything that I'm teaching you is a process I've had to go through myself. And I came to realize I need to accept what I could not control, which is the fact that I have this disability, and focus on what I could control, which is myself, and learning how to ask for help and surround myself with other people that I could actually learn from. And while I did both of those steps, I also had to allow myself to grieve the fact that my brain just worked very differently. And at first I was really, really angry about it, and then I was really sad about it. And then I got to a place of accepting. It's like, okay, this is the way my brain works. And I'm now grateful that this is the way my brain works. I think it's really actually helped me in my career path and actually the work that I do in terms of helping other people. But I had to allow myself to go through those emotions. For me to really accept what I could not control, I allowed myself to kind of go through anger and sadness and then acceptance. Okay. And when you get to the place of acceptance, that's the time where you can just, the sense of peace. Peace is such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. It's kind of like we can just let it go. We can let it go. So that's number 4 is allow yourself to maybe grieve what you cannot control. Okay, these are, again, all mindsets. These are all thoughts and ways of actually approaching things that are very stressful, but that are going to give us a place of calm. The 5th one, everybody, is once you kind of go through those steps, is to then make changes. So again, if we're taking the COVID example, can't control COVID. I'm going to allow myself to be angry about it and sad, and now I'm going to get to a place of accepting. I'm going to focus on what I can control, make my list. And the 5th one is you make changes and you take action. It's really important for your mental health. It's really important for your stress reduction that we don't just kind of think about this, we take action. When we take action based with what we know, all of a sudden now we start feeling empowered, and now we can reap the benefits of that action. So when I think about some of my clients during COVID, can't control COVID, felt anger about it, sad about all the losses, all the graduations that they've missed and weddings that didn't happen. And like, there's a lot of grief, right, that happened during COVID. Allow themselves, but as they went through those emotions and they got to a place of acceptance, and then focus on with what they could control, and taking dance classes, cooking classes, DJ, coding. I mean, I can go on about all the things that some of my clients did. They identified what are the things I can control, and they took action. And while they took action, now they start feeling empowered. They feel like that it builds with what we call self-efficacy, which is like this sense of, oh my goodness, I can impact on how my life actually turns out. So it kind of builds the sense of self-efficacy. Now I'm actually building confidence. I'm feeling empowered. My mindset I have a new mindset around optimism and hope, and my stress comes down and my calm goes up. So, you know what's beautiful about all of this? All of this is free. All of this is free. All of these tools, all of us can do. Doesn't matter our age, it doesn't matter our education, it doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank, it doesn't matter any of that. All of this, all these tools that I'm teaching you are free. This is why I do these videos. I love the fact that we have a platform now that I can teach. I love to teach. I want everybody to reap the benefits of these free tools, everybody, free tools. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get notified when some of our other videos come out. And definitely share your comments below, and definitely also share if there's a topic you would like me to cover. Please let us know this as well. This is how we want to make sure that we are helping others. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on one of our other YouTube videos.